And this is the encouragement that we have, that as we continue to sigh and cry for the abominations being done, even in the Seventh Adventist Church, General Conference, control churches, we know that God is doing a work for us, even sealing us in sin-freeness that we cherish and value, and why we sigh and cry against the sinfulness. Amen. Okay. So let me take you to my screen. Now we have quite a bit to look at on screen in the beginning here, right? Before we go back to our scriptures. And I will just start off by showing you the headline of the story from Mr. Roman's blog, Advent Messenger. And so you see what we're talking about. And then we will take a look at how Olatunji Hazel speaks about it. We'll take a brief look at that. We will also take a brief look at what really happened in terms of how Adventist Health, which is the name of a system of Adventist hospitals, how they managed to get involved in this kind of thing anyway. So here's the headline. And as you can see, I'm trying to increase the view for you. I will do it as far as is possible, okay? Right. Lil Wayne to perform at Adventist Health Arena, a Sabbath-breaking alcohol-serving establishment. So this was the breaking headline yesterday from Andy Roman's blog, Advent Messenger. Grace and peace to everybody, right? Who are on, thank you for joining me. Like I said, this is impromptu. And thank you also on YouTube. Sister Ariel, I see you. YouTube family today. Okay. Right. Lil Wayne to perform at Adventist Health Arena, a Sabbath-breaking alcohol-serving establishment. And we see the headline here. We see an advertisement of how you can get tickets. It is evident that the location is Adventist Health Arena. We're told that by February thereabout of 2025, there'll be a Lil Wayne concert, and there will be other rappers who are guests, Lil Kim, Jeremy, and Selfish Sons. And it is just scandalous. It is horrible, right? Because this is Adventist Health. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I'll just share with you a few pieces here. We are told naming rights are part of a business model that allows corporations to purchase the right to have their name on arenas in exchange for large sums of money. The hope is that the company gets exposure to fans and event goers who attend concerts or sporting events. The downside to these business partnerships is that the company's name becomes associated with the venues. In matters of spiritual faith, these naming rights contracts become a public scandal when the name Adventist becomes linked with the negative imagery of worldly concerts that openly serve alcohol, violate the Sabbath, and play the devil's music, which are all inconsistent with the principles of our faith. So the author of this blog is showing that the issue of how an event like this became associated with the name Adventist is because the Adventist health systems, the hospital system, these are Adventist hospitals, they acquired naming rights to this place that used to be called, I think it was called Stockton Arena before. And by acquiring naming rights, and you will see they spent millions, it's a multi-million-dollar contract. By acquiring naming rights, the name of the arena was changed to Adventist Health Arena. And so every event and whatever that takes place there, whether it is sporting event, concerts, etc., it's taking place in Adventist Health Arena. And one such event coming up is Lil Wayne's concert scheduled for February 1st, 2025 with other rappers, etc. So, but it's not the only thing that takes place there. You have other events, like you have fighting, like wrestling and different kind of sports and so on taking place at the same Adventist Health Arena, and all manner of corruptions that have nothing to do with Seventh Adventism. You have boxing and different shows and things like that. Okay, so this is just to help you know what we're talking about here. Now, I found it interesting. I'm going to show you a short video about the issue of the naming rights, and then I will show you. I will perhaps go back and show you some other things that Adventist Health has been involved in, because one of the things Hazel did, and I'm not going to play too much of what he said, but one of the things he did, he had persons messaging him while he was doing his live this morning, and he sought to put a sort of separation between Adventist Health and the General Conference by saying that, okay, they're not owned by the General Conference. Although he appeared to lament the fact that, okay, well, even if they're not owned, look, they're still using the name. What he fails to realize is that there must be a reason why Adventist Health is using the name. There must be a reason why they're still using the name. And most likely and certainly it has to do with permission from the General Conference, who trademarked the name. So you'll see what he has to say in a little while. But let's just take a little view. This is a 4-minute clip. This comes from 2023. This is going to show us something about the naming rights. It was actually a press conference that was done in the city. Stockton Arena Naming Rights Press Conference, October 24, 2023. And you will see the representative from Adventist Health, and you will see what he says. And the reason why I want you to see what he says is because while he is talking about a business arrangement, he still says that their mission has to do with spreading God's love, etc. Right? So while it is true that the Adventist Health, and I will show you something, they say on their website that they're not owned, they're independent of the Seventh Adventist Church in terms of ownership, yet they show that all their roots and everything is within Adventism. They still carry the name Adventist. All their hospitals carry the name Adventist. And I will show you too that in previous presentations that were made by Advent Messenger, that blog, we were actually shown that they are recognized as under the organization of the North American Division. I will show you this. So here we have City of Stockton, Stockton Arena Naming Rights Press Conference, October 24th, 2023. Let's take a listen.
Humbled and privileged to announce that we are currently sitting and standing in the Stockton Adventist Health Arena. Adventist Health Arena. The past 4 years, we've been very busy as a city.
But when we put this process together and we launched it in April, Jason and I had regular conversations leading up to it, and right up to the fact that he delivered the proposal to City Hall when the RFP process came to an end. So without that, let me introduce Jason Shields with Adventist Health and our newest partner with making Stockton Arena.
So here's the Adventist representative going to speak now.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager Harry Black, Mayor Kevin Lincoln, and Jason Perry. A little off script. Every person I meet from the city of Stockton loves this city. I get to work with a couple people from Stockton, and with the addition of Dameron Hospital a couple years ago, I can sincerely say that everybody here loves the city, and so it's cool to be a part of this. So, my name is Jason Shields. I'm with Adventist Health Old Age Memorial and Dameron Hospital. We're honored to be selected as a community partner with the city of Stockton, truly. Adventist Health provides healthcare to thousands of residents in San Joaquin County through 2 medical centers, 20 clinics, over 45 medical providers, and a compassionate team of over 1,000 associates. Adventist Health is committed to caring for the people of San Joaquin County because as one of the largest employers in the county and as a mission-driven healthcare system, we understand that our existence is woven into the social fabric of the communities that we serve. For this reason, partnering with the city of Stockton and formally associating ourselves with the arena made perfect sense. We're delighted to establish the Adventist Health Arena as a source of joy and happiness for everyone in our county and beyond. In closing, we want to thank the city of Stockton, truly, for this amazing opportunity to be associated with an entertainment venue that we can all be proud of, while also helping us fulfill our mission of living God's love by inspiring health, wholeness, and hope. We're delighted to establish the Adventist Health Arena as a source of joy and happiness for everyone in our county and beyond. In closing, we want to thank the City of Stockton, truly, for this amazing opportunity to be associated with an entertainment venue that we can all be proud of, while also helping us fulfill our mission of living God's love by inspiring health, wholeness, and hope. While also helping us fulfill our mission of living God's love by inspiring health, wholeness, and hope. We're excited for the future this creates.
You heard that.
And we're thankful to be here.
And you see the
Thank
sign
you.
and everything. So he is speaking from Adventist Health, and he is saying this, what they're doing, partnering with the city and acquiring naming rights to the arena so that it's now called Adventist Health Arena, is a part of their mission of spreading God's love, health, and wholeness. And he also would have indicated, or he also indicated that he came from a certain hospital. So this is the Adventist Health system of hospitals, and they claim that they're carrying out God's mission of love and wholeness and health. But you acquire through a multi-million-dollar contract, the last part of the clip is going to show that, naming rights of an arena that puts on concerts, puts on sporting events, puts on all sorts of world events with things that have nothing to do with God's love, things that have nothing to do with health, things that have nothing to do with wholeness, for money. Because your name there is going to earn you money. There were questions during the conference session. They were tight-lipped about certain things, saying that they had signed confidentiality agreements and couldn't say much about the process. But there was a question concerning how they arrived at choosing Adventist Health to be the one, to get the naming rights. And you'll just hear a little part of it, which reveals that it is big money involved here. But the reason why I wanted you to hear this is because I wanted to see that this man is still, the representative of Adventist Health is still proffering in his speech the so-called spiritual mission of Adventist Health. And that's because that's how they describe themselves. They are Adventists. If you look at the leadership, you would see that a lot of the leadership actually were schooled in Adventist schools, universities. So one was even a past pastor for years. But this is what they're doing. And like I said, I will show you how they do still come under, in the registry of the Adventist Church, they do still come under their organization.
Okay, thank you, everyone. At this time, we'll take a couple of questions if there are any questions.
Harry, how many bids did you get on this, and what was the final amount as far as in terms of what it came in at?
He's asking how many bids did we get for this? Yeah, Jason, why don't you come up and talk about the process a little bit that we went through?
Sure. So we as ASM Global partnered with the city to launch an RFP process. It wasn't something that the city was accustomed to. It's not often that a municipality runs an RFP process that is a revenue generator. We as a company have done it in a few municipalities. We don't fully disclose everything because we have a confidentiality agreement with Adventist Health. And we did everything close, and it's sort of why it ran through us. Under our management contract with the City of Stockton, we generate the revenue streams for the building, including sponsorship. But we can let you know that we did receive a few proposals, and unfortunately we won't disclose the dollar amount, but it is a multi-million-dollar, multi-year.
You heard that, multi-million-dollar contract.
Is that for the
10-year
10-year?
deal,
10-year
multi-million.
deal. Correct.
We're delighted to establish the Adventist Health Arena as a source of joy and happiness for everyone in our county and beyond. In closing, we want to thank the City of Stockton, truly, for this amazing opportunity to be associated with an entertainment venue that we can all be proud of, while also helping us fulfill our mission of living God's love by inspiring health, wholeness, and hope.
Living God's love, our mission, Adventist Health Mission, living God's love, inspiring health, wholeness, and hope. My God. So they still profess to be Adventist. When you go on their site, if you go onto their website, Adventist Health, that is, you will find they talk about their mission in such a way. They talk about the fact that they have their roots in Seventh-day Adventism, etc. They do say that they are not owned by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, that they became independent, but the history shows that they were once owned by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'll just show you a few things about that, because I want to establish this because of what Hazel was claiming. Although he still says, you know, that they shouldn't be using the name, but he says it so lightly in the sense that he gives the impression that it's just some organization, some independent organization that's just using the name like that. That is not true. It is the Seventh-day Adventist hospitals. You understand me? And they cannot use the name without the permission of the General Conference who trademarked the name in 1981. They can't. Yeah? So you'll see some of my screen here now. This is Adventist Health. Now, let me just say something. Adventist Health and Advent Health are two different things. They're both systems of Adventist hospitals, but they are two different entities with hospitals in different parts of the United States of America, right? So now in Olatunji's presentation, I don't know if he wasn't aware or he didn't do his checks, but he was saying it's Advent Health. It's not Advent Health. This is Adventist Health. That's the one that owns the arena, and it's not the only arena. They have more than one in different parts of America. That too was revealed. So Adventist Health, this is them. They have an About Us page, of course. It says Adventist Health is a faith-based, nonprofit integrated health system serving more than 100 communities on the West Coast and Hawaii, with over 440 sites of care, including 28 acute care facilities, founded on Adventist heritage and values, right? Founded on Adventist heritage and values, Adventist Health provides care in hospitals, clinics, home care, etc., etc. And he says this, and it says the same thing, in pursuit of one mission, living God's love by inspiring health, wholeness, and hope. The same thing that the representative said at the press conference for the naming rights announcement. So they clearly tell you that they are founded upon Adventist values and they are a faith-based operation. Okay, I think if you come down here, let me see, right. They have an entire booklet. You can see the booklet pictured there, Living God's Love, where they go through their history. So they call it Living God's Love, the story of Adventist health. And you'd see the description says the story of Adventist health is a humanitarian expression of the Adventist faith. Are you hearing that? It's a humanitarian expression of the Adventist faith and a contemporary expression of the healing ministry of Jesus. And then they explain their roots. Now, we wouldn't look into the details of the issue, but I could just show it to you. You know, they have a flip book and it's called The Story of Adventist Health. And when you go through briefly, you will see they start from, look at this page, for example. I wonder if this is right. Look at this magnified here, Path of Hope and Healing. They claim they start from before Christ and then they come down to Christ's time when he's born. And then they go to what? Early Adventism, right? And Sister White, okay? And explain that she had a vision to change the common health practices in 1863. Then they tell you 1878, Rural Health Retreat in St. Helena is established in California, the first major Adventist healthcare center on the West Coast. 1878, Ellen White is alive. Then they show you 1905, Loma Linda Sanitarium opens. 1800 to 1930, medical science makes dramatic advances. And then they tell you by 1980, under the leadership of Frank Dupper, Adventist Health Services joins forces with Northwest Medical Foundation to form Adventist Health. So this is an originally, historically Seventh-day Adventist system. Yeah? And they tell you all of this in their history. Okay? So you can go through the flip book and you would see all of that. So we're not going into that in detail. But I'm just establishing this. I think I may have come out of my share screen. Let me verify. Okay, I'll get you back to screen shortly. I'm just establishing this to show you that don't make anybody try to downplay this and say that, oh, it's not an Adventist institution, or rather, it's not with the General Conference, it's not under conference control, etc. Rubbish, right? It is very much under conference control. Let me correct that. It is very much under conference acknowledgement, recognition, though they say on their website, they do say on their website that they're not owned by the conference. So if we go to, I don't usually depend too much on Wikipedia, but sometimes they do say things that are corroborated by actual sources. I just want to read this little portion here from Wikipedia for you. Okay. Concerning Adventist health, right? Yes, Sister Ariel, you saw Ellen White. Adventist health, right? So, a little history, and even Adventist health showed it. The history is rooted in the Seventh Adventist Church. But it's under this history here, this is instructive. It says, in the 1960s, the General Conference transferred ownership of the hospitals in the United States to the local conferences. In 1972, the General Conference centralized the management of its healthcare facilities, creating Adventist health systems. You see? So the very creation of the system was done by the General Conference. And then we're told the conferences then transferred the hospitals to the system, creating the entities Northwest Medical Foundation and Adventist Health Services at the union level. So they're all connected with the whole organizational structure of the Adventist Church. It's just that they set up a separate system and put the hospitals under that. And then it says in 1980, they merged, creating Adventist Health System West, which changed its name to Adventist Health in 1995. And then they tell you about the headquarters. So the whole thing has its roots with the Seventh Adventist General Conference. And the information they provide here comes from adventisthealth.org. Okay? So I just wanted to share that with you. Right. Now, there's one more thing I need to share before I go to Ohazel's video. Right. So one of the things I did, because I recall different news being shown about Adventist health in the past on the same Andy Woman's website, on his blog, I decided to just search back and see, because I recalled that when he had shared different things about Adventist health, he had showed that it was under the conference, meaning acknowledged by the conference. So I decided to go back, and if you just search in his search box and you look for Adventist health, you will find a number of articles mentioning Adventist health. I want you to just be reminded of a few. So we have the most recent one with Lil Wayne's concert, Adventist Health System, Adventist Health Arena. Look at this next headline here. I'm not going to read all of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, but look at this headline. Adventist Health forms a partnership and a new joint venture with one of the nation's most LGBT-friendly and gender-affirming surgical providers. Do you all remember that? When Adventist Health joined up with this gender-affirming hospital, LGBT-friendly hospital, yes. That was February 16, 2024. This was published. What else do we see? July 18th, 2023, Adventist Health Portland honors Pride Month. You see the kinds of things that Adventist Health has been involved in? Yeah. Adventist Health Portland honors Pride Month. What else? Look at this next one here. Thanks to federal funding, Adventist Health has implemented a system-wide corporate policy that establishes transgender-based care with gender-affirming room assignments. Yes, you understand? So their hospitals are involved in room assignments based on so-called transgender-based care and gender-affirming. They have joined up with LGBT promoting hospitals. This is Adventist Health doing all of this, right? And these are the people who say their mission is to show God's love, health and hope and wellness. What does LGBT and gender surgeries, which really are mutilation of the human body, have to do with health and wellness and hope and God's love? This is a total deviation from the so-called purpose and stated mission. This has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. This has nothing to do with health and love, God's love and hope. God's love is against sin. And so much more. Look at this one. Ash Wednesday, Catholic priest Mark Maxson applies ashes to Adventist Health Associates, caregivers, physicians, patients, and visitors in observance of Lent. This was published on March 4th, 2022. Here's another one telling you how they supported, you know what, the jab, right? Look at this next one. December 26, 2020. Adventist Health allows its physicians to perform gender transition services at its facilities. So when you hear Hazel talking as if this is just some new deviation and, oh, this is why they shouldn't have the name. What happened? He doesn't know about these things. These people have been doing gender transition surgeries at their hospitals, Adventist Health. This abomination here, this sodomy, that Mrs. White says, if you get involved in that, if your crimes become the crimes of Sodom and Gomorrah, God cannot work with you. God cannot work through you. They've been involved in this for years. This goes back to 2020, 2022, 2023. You understand me? And these are some of the headlines. Now, there's a reason I'm showing you this. These are some of the headlines we got from Andy Roman. All right? Veggies and vino. Vino is wine. Is the new Adventist Health message. They were advertising alcohol a long time, not just for the Little Wayne concert coming up. Flesh foods in Adventist health institutions have come full circle. I read a Q&A on their page today where people were asking, do you serve meat at your hospitals? And they said, while the original Seventh-day Adventist diet promotes vegetarianism, yes, we do serve meat at our hospitals. So they know they have their roots in Adventism. People are asking questions because they're Adventist hospitals, and they're showing you the ways in which they deviate from original Adventist doctrine. There was one that, here it is. There was one that Andy showed here. Look at this. Let me just go to the main thing. Because, you know, the reason I have to show you this is because Olatunji will come and he will say, oh, we have to make an appeal to Ted Wilson to do something. We have to appeal to Ted Wilson. Look at this headline from September 28th, 2020. Ted Wilson asks us to pray for Adventist Health, St. Helena Hospital, a church entity that promotes drinking parties and receives millions from the alcohol industry. This is what Andy Roman entitled his article, and he goes on to show the proof. But what had happened is that there was a fire that broke out in the area, and the fire had threatened Adventist Health St. Helena Hospital. It had also threatened the Pacific Union College in the area, and it was like headed towards the Ellen White's home. And I think there was a miracle here because it didn't touch her home. Yeah, it didn't touch her home. But he had put out a tweet, that's Ted Wilson, or a message, asking for prayers. So Mr. Roman was exposing, you know, how wicked it is, because this hospital, this Adventist health system is involved in all kind of party and alcohol, drinking, etc. But here comes the president of the General Conference asking for prayers for it, right? Why are they concerned? If the Adventist health system is not under their, not in any affiliation or association with them, why do you want to save them? Listen to me. There has to be a reason why they're still being allowed to use the name. It has to mean that there's some benefits coming to the General Conference. And even this article shows it. So the same Andy Roman blog that you are quoting, Hazael, exposed and rebuked Ted Wilson for owning and showing support and solidarity with the same Adventist Health when it was under threat by fire, while this institution is involved in all kind of wine drinking, handing over wine. Look, he was showing us some pictures here, Adventist Health St. Helena Hospital annual gala event, and you have the president and the CEO and board member standing together with the winemakers. And bottles of wine in the corner being celebrated. Look at them. And all proceeds from the wine go to benefit their institutions. Alcohol. Where were you, Olatunji? Where were you, Hazael? And Ted Wilson was saying, pray for them. Hypocrite. Don't try that. Don't pretend you're crying and sighing for some abomination suddenly. And then you will hear he say, we have to make an appeal to Ted Wilson. We have to make an appeal. Look at them. Wine festival and alcohol drinking. Adventist Health. Adventist Health. You understand me? But what was a great reminder for me as I went through these article headings again from Andy Roman was that I was made to recall that at the time when Roman was exposing these different evils that Adventist Health was involved in. Look at another one, September 25th, 2020. Adventist Health has partnered with a winery to distribute 800 bottles of fermented wine to local nurses. Huh? Are you hearing this? While Pope Francis venerates Mother Earth, Adventist Health wants you to connect with nature. Look at this next one. Adventist Health Glendale has been hosting an annual feast called the Blessings of Grapes that commemorates the Virgin Mary's ascension into heaven. That is immortality of the soul doctrine from the Catholic Church. And you, Adventist Health, holding an annual feast commemorating Mary's ascension into heaven, like she's a god and isn't dead when she's supposed to be dead and in the grave. That's Satan's doctrine. In dying, you shall not die. Look, Adventist Health has an annual feast like that. Catholic behavior, Babylon behavior, traits. Where were you? You understand me? And so much more. So much more. Adventist owned sanitarium health food company sponsors youth sporting events and provides parents with alternative gender identity options during registration. I remember that one, 2023, and so much more, so much more. Look at this one. Adventist Health is now restoring worship in Adventist churches with rap music. Adventist Health. Sorry, well, this one was Advent Health. Okay, we deal with Adventist Health today. Adventist Health and Advent Health are two different things, but that's just bad too. Right? That's just bad too. Look at this. During a $100 million hospital merger, I remember this too. During a $100 million hospital merger, Kerry Heinrich, president and CEO of Adventist Health, stated that they welcome LGBTQ employees and that they have no church directive on reproductive rights. Are you hearing this? They welcome LGBTQ employees and they have no church directive on reproductive rights. That's why they could support all the gender affirming so-called surgeries, etc., etc. So they have been involved for a long time, and look, there are more pages with their names in it. I'm not going to go through all of them. But the reason why I was glad to remember this is because, brethren, I remember that when Roman had showed some of the evils, let me see if I could find one example. Let's try this. At the bottom, he would normally put his sources. And at the bottom, sources of at least one or two of the articles, not this one. Let me go to another one. You know what he put for us? He put look at this one. Adventist Health Portland honors Pride Month. Okay. And at the bottom, he put in the sources something called the Adventist Yearbook. And when you go to the Adventist Yearbook, this is what you will find. This is what you will find. Now, this one was Portland, yes? Yes, this one was Portland. So shall we see what we find for the Adventist Yearbook, Portland? Here we are. Adventist Health, Portland. This is on the Office of Archives, Statistics and Research of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So this will tell you all their schools, all their hospitals, all their institutions who are under them, who are at least acknowledged by them, even though they may have some frame of independent operation. So watch. The Adventist Health Portland supporting LGBT, they are on the archives of the Adventist Church. Look at this. Look. They give you the details. Organization. It's called Adventist Health Portland. Established 1983. Administrative parent, Adventist Health System /West, DBA Adventist Health. Organizational unit, what is the unit over it? The organizational unit, North Pacific Union Conference. North Pacific Union Conference. And then they give you all the details with respect to how to contact them. And they even give you information about the president, etc., etc. This is Adventist Health Portland. Portland. Let's look at another one. Adventist Health System /West. Look at this. Adventist Health System / West, right? Observe. What are they? Adventist Health System / West, DBA Adventist Health. Established when? 1980. What's the organizational unit that they come under? North American Division. Do you see it? North American Division. And they go down and again, they give you all their website. Now, this is the same website of the Adventist Health who acquired owning rights, naming rights for the arena, and is going to have the Little Wayne concert next year. This is the same Adventist Health. They're under the North American Division. They're under the North American Division. They're recognized at least by them. Yeah, they have their Facebook pages, etc. And then they go on to give you the administration. They tell you who are they. President or Chief Executive Officer Kerry Heinrich. They show you different presidents for different areas. Central California president is Jason Wells. North California is Eric Stevens. Oregon State, Joyce Newmar, etc. Now, if you go onto Adventist Health website right now, you'd find all those same officers listed under their leadership. And they list also the different hospitals that fall under Adventist Health. They list the different hospitals. Okay? So don't be deceived. This Seventh-day Adventist Church acknowledges them. That is why they're using the name. The context to all of this is to show you why you cannot listen to the hue and cry that Olatunji is making, as if to say, oh, these people, they're using our name and they have no right to use our name. Excuse me, they're recognized by your archives, your General Conference archives. That's why they're using the name. They have permission. So go rebuke the General Conference and stop talking as if this is some independent ministry. And you see, this is why God said we shouldn't be independent, because this is what happens when you're independent of the conference. You know, he does all of that. You're supposed to be sighing and crying for the abomination being done in Adventist Health, but you want to go blame so-called offshoots and being independent of conference. What do we have to do with that? You see, we are independent of conference control. You see any of those filth among us? You see any of that corruption in Tuesday Seventh-day Adventist Church? The independent parachurch? No.
Under the conference.
You understand me? And I will show you. I'm going to deal with that, Brother Calvert, because you're claiming it's being independent from conference that causes the corruption. But what about all the not independent from conference institutions that doing corruption still? What is the cause of their corruption now? Being in the conference? So which is it? Independence or dependence of conference causing corruption? Which is it? But brethren, the cause is the false justification among them all. That you could say your mission is spreading God's love, hope, health, and wholeness, but encouraging sin for money. So the same names I gave you just now there, under the North American Division, Adventist Health System West. Look at some of the same leadership team members here. Heinrich, you see that? He's the president and CEO. Now, I am on Adventist Health's page here, Adventist Health. So they have a section called Leadership Team. And so who are on the leadership team? The president and CEO is Kerry Heinrich. It's the same name. Look, they know all the people. The archives of the General Conference has the Adventist Yearbook, Adventist Health System, established 1980. The organizational unit is the North American Division, and they give you all the names of the administration. You see, President, Chief Executive Officer, Kerry Heinrich, same Kerry Heinrich. They give you the other presidents. Jason Wells manages the Central California Network, Eric Stevens, the Northern California Network, Joyce Newmar, the Oregon State Network. Are they the same people in Adventist Health today? Yes, watch. Look for the names, watch. Joyce Newmar, you see that? Joyce Newmar. She's Chief People Officer. Okay? Adventist Health. They're all under the North American Division recognition. Yeah? They're all there. Eric Stevens, we saw that name. President of the Northern California Network. You see? And one of the things I observed, you know, when I read the profiles of these people, a lot of them went to Adventist schools. They have their formation in Seventh-day Adventist organization. Jason Wells, we saw that name too, under the NAD. He's the president of the Central California Network. Some of them served on Loma Linda before. Some of them were, there was one that was a pastor. This one is Sam Leonor, Chief Mission Officer. Look what it says about him. He has 30 years of pastoral experience. 30 years of experience in Adventist pastoral ministry, higher education, and healthcare. Prior to joining Adventist Health, he was university chaplain and adjunct professor at La Sierra University, where he taught classes in theology and spirituality in the workplace. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in religious education from Southern Adventist University and a Master of Divinity degree from Andrews University. So you study so much theology. You even have a master's in divinity, as you all call it. You served 30 years as a pastor. You was chaplain in Adventist universities, and you sitting on Adventist Health having Lil Wayne concert next year? When you read, a lot of them have their formation in Adventist schools. And in this particular case, this guy was actually a pastor for 30 years. They were president of the hospitals. Look, this one here, president of the Central California Network. What did he do? He got his bachelor's degree at Walla Walla University. That's an Adventist university. And more. They were managers of Adventist hospitals. They went to school at Loma Linda, or they managed at Loma Linda, etc., etc., etc. So you cannot in any way separate them from the General Conference. They have recognition from the General Conference as Adventist institutions, though they may have some kind of semi-autonomy or autonomy to whatever extent. So now let me come out of here. I hope I showed you all I wanted to show you. I believe so. You got that clear, right, brethren? Let me come out of here and let me show you the clip now from Ohazel. Now, this man is delusional. He's frustrated. He's frustrated, and he is going to get himself in serious trouble. Don't be surprised if he leaves Adventism altogether, as we have shown you before, because he doesn't have the solution to the problem. But he mostly gets upset because he thinks that, okay, with news like this, those independents, those offshoots, they're going to get something to talk about. So if you're supposed to be sighing and crying for the abominations, why are you talking about independent persons? We have all right to talk about it. It is abominable. Thank you, Brother Calvert. Sister Marcia on YouTube, she's watching from Jamaica. She said, prayer alone cannot help. It goes along with action. Jesus says, go and say no more. They need action. James 1, 22, 23, be a doer of the word. Amen, Sister Marcia in Jamaica. And this is what you will hear him saying, pray. And let we talk to the president and so on and so forth. You see? Yes, they have connection to the church, Sister Adrian. I'm now looking on the Facebook comments here. More than connection, recognition too. That's why he did using the name. So when he talks about the issue of the name, he wasting time. He knows nothing. These people are not just using the name like that. They've come after the Creation, Seventh-day Adventists and others for less. But these alcohol supporting, Lil Wayne, immoral rapper supporting, all kind of filthy immorality supporting, giving their name to it, they get to use the name. But you curse us for using the name because you say we're not under conference control. You see the hypocrisy? Listen to him. Now, there's a part inside there. I couldn't help it. I had to go back and show you something. So I inserted a portion that is not originally a part of this video. This video was done this morning, but I inserted a portion from recently where he and his wife was mocking Thusia, claiming that we had said there's a general conference in heaven. No, we hadn't said that, but that's what they said and they mocked us. But now in desperation, you will hear this man saying that if they don't get a word from Ted Wilson, their general conference president, they will have to appeal to their general conference president in heaven. I kid you not. I will show you. Listen.
We want to have a special call and a special season of revival and reformation in the Seventh-day Adventist Church for a recent development that has just come to my attention within the past hour, and many of you have already heard about it before. Brothers and sisters, we are living at a time. We are definitely in the omega of apostasy, brothers and sisters, in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And God calls for a revival and reformation. I just got word of a concert that's taking place with the godless rapper Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne, for those of you know, is a worldly rap artist. And somebody says, so what if Lil Wayne is doing something? Well, he's doing it at a place called Adventist Health Arena. Adventist Health Arena with special guests Little Kim and Jeremiah. Man, this is in Selfish Sons at Adventist Health Arena. Now, brothers and sisters, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it this morning, but this has gone too far. Back in the days of the Alpha of Apostasy, in Ellen White's time, the Review and Herald were doing commercial businesses with Coca-Cola. Caffeine serving Coca-Cola. Do you understand this right here? And God had to cleanse the publishing house. But brothers and sisters, let me tell you this right here. This is an abomination to God. And what happens is the Adventists help, and we're not making no excuses for this. We're going to talk about this issue, not so much for the purpose of making you angry, but for the purpose, brothers and sisters, of coming together. And we're going to have a revival and reformation in Advent Health, brothers and sisters. What happens is this, people can look at this two ways. That the church, one way people can look at it is that the church is so corrupt. The church is so corrupt that we need to leave it and start some new organization. And those who are looking for and those who delight to feast on the sins of the church, they just have one more thing to talk about. But what we're going to do today, we're going to have a prayer session, and we're just going to have to do an appeal to this. God calls forth, but see what happens is that, if one or two people call or whatever, usually these men's minds are made up where they're just going to go ahead and do it. But brothers and sisters, we're going to have to make an appeal to Ted Wilson, General Conference President. And if he's not able to do anything, we can go to the General Conference President in heaven, God. And God says he's going to work to right every wrong, brothers and sisters. I mean, even one ministry yesterday.
So this is where I inserted this. Because you just heard him say, if Ted Wilson can't do anything, they're going to have to go to the General Conference in heaven. But just about 2 weeks or so ago, he was ridiculing Thusia, claiming that we said there's our General Conference is in heaven. He was ridiculing it. You'll hear his wife, a General Conference in heaven. But he just said it. So I spliced this part in for you to see the irony and the hypocrisy and the foolishness. They don't even know what they're talking about. And by the way, we Thusia never said anything about a General Conference in heaven. What we said is that you have the Heavenly Sanctuary Organization, and that manages God's church in the earth. And what can happen from time to time, according to Acts chapter 15, is you can have a general conference in session of holy people, brethren of the church, meeting to deal with different issues. It happened in Acts chapter 15. You could go and study it. So we never said anything about a general conference in heaven. So they were ridiculing us at the time. But now the same person who was ridiculing us for something we didn't even talk about is taking the same thing he claimed we said and said they will appeal to it. They will appeal to it if they don't get word from Ted Wilson. So understand this portion inserted here and the flipping back and forth to help you to see the irony and the hypocrisy of it. Listen again.
This. God calls forth, but see what happens is that, if one or two people call or whatever, usually these men's minds are made up where they're just going to go ahead and do it. But brothers and sisters, we're going to have to make an appeal to Ted Wilson, General Conference President. And if he's not able to do anything, we can go to the General Conference President in heaven, God. And God says he's going to work to right every wrong, brothers and sisters. I mean, even one ministry yesterday in the Caribbean has now redefined this issue of the General Conference as the GC in heaven and stuff. I'm like, you know what?
The GC in heaven.
The General Conference in heaven. It's other words, people, rather
You
than
see
just
that?
deal with the truth in their own lives, it is human nature to gaslight yourself and to gaslight
I
others
need a
about it. People will feel like, oh, this is, I don't have to do it because that's not what it is. I mean, even one ministry yesterday in the Caribbean has now redefined this issue of the General Conference as the GC in heaven and stuff. I'm like, you know what?
The GC in heaven.
The General Conference in heaven is this issue of the General Conference as the GC in heaven and stuff. I'm like, you know
The
what?
GC in heaven. The GC in heaven.
General Conference.
But
in
hear
heaven
him this
is-
morning.
brothers and sisters, we're going to have to make an appeal to Ted Wilson, you know, General Conference President. And if he's not able to do anything, we can go to the General Conference President in heaven.
The GC in heaven?
Go to the General Conference President in heaven. God.
GC in heaven. GC in heaven. GC in heaven.
And God says he's going to work to right every wrong, brothers and sisters. If Advent
you
Health
cannot trust
does
these
not
guys?
want,
You just was ridiculing Tuesday Seventh Adventist Church for what you claim we said, which is that you claim we said there's a GC in heaven. Your wife goes to GC in heaven, and you're laughing about it. But no, you come today and are telling people that if you don't get word from your General Conference President on the earth, you're just gonna have to go to the GC, the General Conference President in heaven, which is God. Can you really take these people seriously when this is how they behave? You're just saying things for saying its sake and for trying to get one up on an offshoot, as you call us. Score one against the Tuesday group in the Caribbean. You don't even know what you're talking about. 1 minute it's a joke, the GC in heaven. Another minute you're gonna have to appeal to the GC president in heaven, which is God. That is why you cannot trust these people. Let's listen to the rest of what he has to say.
to follow the blueprint. Since they've done contrary to God's blueprint, it's now time for them to take the Adventist name off of Advent Health and stop calling themselves Adventist Health, because brothers and sisters, this is an abomination to God and it has to come. God's going to bring it to a stop.
That's why to stop calling themselves Adventist. And you're talking about appealing to Ted. I showed you all already that Ted Wilson supports the Advent Health system. He said, pray for them when they were threatened by some fire the other day. He supports them. He has never let his general conference act against them to go after them for using the name, as they did the Creation 70 Adventist Church and as they did the Berean Free International Free SDA Church just recently. They just settled their case there either early this year or last year, 2023. Ted Wilson has never gone after Adventist Health for using the name. So what are you talking about? No, we're not saying anybody should go after anybody for using the name, because we don't believe in trademarking the name. If people use the name wrong, you go out there and you publish and you state, that is not us. That doesn't represent the faith. God will deal with them. But we are not for you taking upon yourself some power with the state to persecute persons arbitrarily for using the name, under which brethren who are genuinely using the name to spread the truth that they know are being persecuted. Like how they sent police for Emmanuel Nuges in Papua New Guinea just recently. And hazels like these pastors are justifying that. But don't make no big hue and cry over them using the name, because they're using it by permission. And you see, he wants to give the impression that the conference is separated from the corruption, but they're not. They sanction it in so many different ways by agencies that don't even describe themselves as having any kind of autonomy or independence in the way Adventist Health has described itself. Almost finished.
It's now time for them to take the Adventist name off of Advent Health and stop calling themselves Adventist Health, because brothers and sisters, this is an abomination to God and it has to come. God's going to bring it to a stop. That's why God says he's going to turn and overturn in the institutions called by his name. Now we're going to pray that God will overturn, because this has gone too far. As the medical missionary work becomes more extended, there will be a temptation to make it independent of our conferences. But it has been presented to me that this plan is not right. So, brothers and sisters, no wonder Sister White said, and and this is
Listen,
very deep. She said not to separate from conference
yeah,
organization, not just on the right, but even on
listen.
the left. And what happens is our health work has separated itself from conference organization, and now we got
You
this
see?
mess right
You
here,
see what he
brothers and
blamed?
sisters. And all this is going to do is give the enemies of the Seventh-day Adventist Church outside and from within opportunity to blaspheme. And that's what happened with
That is what
David.
he's most concerned about. That this exposure, they're exposing themselves, will cause persons who are sighing and crying against the abominations to talk about it and to expose them. That is what he's really concerned about. He's not genuinely crying and sighing for the abominations. One, you're making excuses. You're making excuses. Oh, well, they're not with the conference and so. He did that in the longer video. I couldn't play the whole thing, right? Secondly, you're saying, oh, well, you see what I'm saying? You should never separate from conference because that is why they're so corrupt. Excuse me? So why is your president saying pray for them? If they're so corrupt and they're corrupt because they're separated from conference, why is your conference president saying pray for them? Hmm? Why are they under your archives as under the NAD, the North American Division, with all their contact information and all their presidents and vice presidents, etc., being acknowledged? Huh? When it is because they're independent, they're corrupt. Oh, Hazel is telling you lies and he's dishonest. And he will not tell you the truth and paint the true picture because he doesn't want to acknowledge the corruption within the General Conference itself. And that corruption, I say to you, is first doctrinal. It is false justification that they teach that vindicates all of this. You all remember the other day, this Hazel was preaching. You could have sinful feelings in your flesh, even though you call yourself a Christian. And do you remember an associate of his who he baptized, rebaptized the other day? I don't have that picture at hand. Myra Grandjunior and her husband. Do you remember her telling Sister Ashley, I'm going to show it to you. When Sister Ashley is showing you're not supposed to have no pull for sex and for fornication in your flesh, if you're a Christian, as he had said. You remember her asking Sister Ashley, a married woman asking, so you don't have feelings for fornication and for drinking and for smoking? Y'all remember her asking that? Well, it's the same drinking and the same smoking that Adventist Health Systems, by taking over the arena, is going to support and is already supporting with their Lil Wayne concert coming up and already with the other events that are happening. But where does that come from? It comes from false justification. It comes from this idea that you could be a justified Christian, saved by grace and faith, and still have feelings of sin inside of you. So why you can't do the action? That is where it comes from. And that is why there will be no revival and reformation inside of that General Conference with those false doctrines. None. So the issue is not being independent. When Mrs. White gave counsel at the time about these bodies not being independent of conference, she saw problems like with Kellogg, where he wanted to take the Battle Creek, he wanted to take the sanitarium out of under conference. But Kellogg himself was already departing from the Third Angel's message and accepting pantheism. And so to take the health institution away out of the conference would be to create and to cause it to become one that would be pushing satanic concepts in health. And so she was right to say, don't encourage it being taken from under the conference. She was right in that context, but there are other contexts, for example, Madison and others, where she encouraged them to set up sanitariums that were independent as a part of the independent Madison board, where she encouraged the setting up of independent publishing. So the corruption in Adventist Health is not because they're independent, because your dependent president in the conference is saying pray for them. And your other institutions that are dependent in conference are corrupt too, like Loma Linda, and I'll show you an example. But let's just finish off the clip here, right? Let's just finish off the clip.
God had to intervene because the illegitimate child was going to give all the enemies a chance to blaspheme. So God had to deal with that child in his mercy to protect the name of his church. And God is going to have to do the same thing, because brothers and sisters, when you have, and they were doing some other stuff before at a Lil Wayne performing at an Adventist Health Arena, a Sabbath breaking alcohol serving establishment. So I know that the trademark issue is a very, very sore spot for a lot of people, but now you can see why they do it and stuff. Because when you're dealing with an asset, when you're dealing with assets in the billions of dollars and stuff like that, and I tried to tell somebody this, is that the reason for the trademark is not so much somebody trying to be in kingly power, but for unauthorized use of the name. Because what happens is that that's like somebody copyright, somebody just taking a book that you wrote, the same information, and making money off of it. That's stealing, brothers and sisters. But we've often heard about this trademark issue on the right. But brothers and sisters, now you see it on the left now. And brothers, anytime you've ever heard of trademark issues, it's always dealing with independents and people on the right. Now, this church has an
Who are you?
opportunity to deal with it
Who do you
on
think you
all
are?
sides. And that's the right. If it's wrong for the so-called offshoot to do it, as they would say, it's wrong for Adventist
Listen to
Health
me.
to do it.
He said
And
he's
they
going
need
to appeal to
stop
Ted
it.
Wilson.
We
If
need
Ted
to be
Wilson doesn't
consistent.
listen, he will appeal to the General Conference in heaven. The same concept he ridiculed the other day when he threw it on us, even though that is not what we said. But Ted Wilson's General Conference has Adventist Health under it. They acknowledge it, even though it may have some measure of autonomy. It is acknowledged by the conference, as I showed you all. Let's just finish the clip.
In that, should they need to leave the offshoot
Oh, you know
alone?
that?
Because at least they trying to uphold Seventh-day Adventist standards.
It's not
While
the
you have
left, it's
something
the
on the
General
left
Conference.
promoting the very
Listen
thing
to
that's
me.
going to send people to
This
hell.
is not
That's
a problem of
why we
just
got to
something on the
protest this
left.
foolishness.
Listen to me. The General Conference itself is infected with concepts of the left, communist, socialist, immorality. The General Conference itself has that in them. So don't try to blame it on some independent organization on the left, because we're going to show you at least a few examples of the point I'm saying. The point is that the General Conference itself has these people acknowledged. You think they could have used the name without the General Conference allowing them permission to use the name under their trademark law? Of course not. And here, the naming rights contract is a multi-million-dollar contract for a 10-year period, and they just got it last year. They're making plenty money, and I personally believe that the General Conference is benefiting in one way or the other, whether it be through workers in Adventist Health hospitals paying in their tithes after they work, but the same Adventist Health now system is going to get more monies because they have greater advertising, because they've put their name on certain great events. So whatever monies they're going to be raking in as a result of having the naming rights, and that money is going into their systems, whether they could open more hospitals, hire more people. If there are people working there, they're going to pay their tithes into conference. So at the end of the day, there's a reason why the General Conference still acknowledges them as an Adventist institution. So you could sit down there and talk about, oh, it's time for them to stop using the name and all of that. You are not being honest about what is really going on here and who is really supporting this. You're not being honest about that.
Lil Wayne and stuff like that. So somebody said I was against the
Still
trademark at
persecuting
first,
people.
and they used it to persecute some people. But now I see why it's necessary, only because of the millions of members and all the assets that we own. This is serious, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much, Greatness Lifestyle. The love of money. It's just all about the love of money. So, brothers and sisters, we need something. We got to pray. Continue to pray. We're going to pray that God will overturn. And yes, we need to talk to our leaders and tell them to do everything in your power. Because it's easy to deal with little independents because they ain't got that kind of power and money.
But who created
Now you're
it?
dealing with a big Goliath called Advent Health that has gone so far to allow, not just allow, but to do partnerships, to use the God's name and his principles to attach it to the very thing that our name and what our
created the
mission's
Goliath?
against. It's very clear.
The
It's very
Adventist Health
black and
system
white.
was created by the General Conference. I read that for you. I read it for you. Let me just go back to the directory and show you that Adventist Health is acknowledged, at least acknowledged under the North American division. I showed this to you. Look, Adventist Health System /West, they are under the Office of Archives, Statistics and Research of the General Conference. You can find them listed as an organization established 1980 organizational unit that they're under, North American Division. You can find all their details there, including their current website, their Facebook page, their Twitter, all their social media. You can find also all the names and positions of all their administrative officers, which I showed you. I showed you here, and then I compared and I went to Adventist Health and showed you the same officers. And then you can find all the hospitals, the related organizations, all the hospitals under the different unions, North Pacific Union region, Pacific Union region, and look at what is called member institutions, right? All the hospitals that are under North Pacific Union region, Pacific Union region, etc. It's all under the General Conference. Even though they may have a way of operating that has some autonomy or independent of conference, they are acknowledged by the General Conference. You can't get away from that, Olatunji. You cannot get away from that, Hazael. Now, 1035 Knox on YouTube is saying, the president is now implicated in the Catholic meeting too. He did not want protesters to take over the campus. O, referring to Hazael, is one of their greatest generals. These guys can work the church can work the church that love E.G. White to not even want to go to church on Saturday. I think he's saying, they could make you feel like that as a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm having some challenges reading all that you're saying, right? Right, but thank you for your comments, my dear. Thank you very much. Right, I see the brethren showing, no, he is not, Sister Ashley, he's not talking about the trademark being tied to them buying the naming rights of the stadium, He is saying that because they're not doing what Adventists believe, they shouldn't be allowed to use the name. So he's pretty much saying that the Adventist church who has trademarked the name should remove the possibility for them to call themselves Adventist Health. Because it is a fact that when they trademark the names, they trademark not just Seventh-day Adventist, they trademark the name Adventist as well. So that is what he's actually saying. He's not talking about the naming rights issue, where Adventist Health got naming rights of the stadium or the arena, and it's now called Adventist Health Arena. He is saying that because they are named Adventist and they're doing these wickedness that is not in harmony with our faith, they should not be allowed to carry the name Adventist. That is what he's talking about. Okay? So, and as I showed you before, brethren, I think it was in the Wikipedia article, I had showed you the little history where it showed how Adventist Health came to be. We are told in the 1960s, General Conference transferred ownership of hospitals in the United States to the local conferences. In 1972, the GC centralized the management of its healthcare facilities, creating something called Adventist Health Systems. So the General Conference was always in control. And they're the ones that set up that function called Adventist Health Systems. And then we're told the conferences then transferred the hospitals to the system. So they take all the hospitals under the local conferences, transfer them to something called Adventist Health Systems, okay, creating the entities Northwest Medical Foundation and Adventist Health Services at the union level. And then we're told in 1980, they merged, creating Adventist Health System West, which changed its name to Adventist Health in 1995. And we showed you Adventist Health showing on their page. They have a little history pamphlet, and they show you their history is based in Adventism, Ellen White, all the works, and how they became Adventist Health and so on. So the whole thing has roots in the General Conference. It was the General Conference that transferred the hospitals on the local conferences, and then that eventually centralized the whole thing into what they call Adventist Health System. So don't bother with this liar and these deceivers who want to give you the impression I want to go to something here now on Fulcrum. I must, because I want to show you the issue is not independence causing them to be corrupt. Because I at least want to show you at least one or two examples of corruption within the same ones that are not autonomous. And even though Adventist Health says on its website that they are not under General Conference control, please remember they are acknowledged as an organization of the church, Adventist institutions under General Conference, North American Division, as we showed you from the archives.